Hi, and welcome back to Hot Off the Press, the show about new releases and the authors that bring them to you. I'm your host, Jim Nettles, and so let's see who is bringing in stuff this week for that to-be-read pile as Jenny floats in and out of various multiverse dimensions. So, Russ, you're up first.
Cat's quote.
All right, hey guys, I'm author Russ Colchamiro. As you can see back there, I write a combination of sci-fi thrillers, mystery, crime, and some horror. And tonight I'm going to be talking about, I got a new novella that just came out. It's called Hide and Seek, Fury of the White Mask. It is a YA espionage thriller wherein classic monsters are spies.
Ariel?
Hopefully can you hear me?
We're good.
Yep. All right. So I'm Ariel Dawn. I write primarily monster romance, paranormal romance, that sort of thing. And tonight I'm going to be talking about my foray into Omegaverse with Captured Omega.
Layla?
Hi, I'm Layla Dorine. I write LGBTQ fiction and romance. And tonight I'll be talking to you about Echoes of a Muted Song, which released last Friday. And it is a rockstar romance book that is in the world of Damaged Saints.
Elektra?
Hi, I'm Elektra Hammond. I will pretty much write anything you will pay me for, although I specialize in alternate history. And today I'm going to be talking about Permutations. It's a mosaic novel written in Jack Chalker's Well World. I and a bunch of other contributors got together and got to write fanfic in one of our favorite worlds, and we got paid.
Jenny?
Hi, I'm Gini Koch. I write the Alien Catherine Kitty Cat series. I also write under a variety of other pen names in all lengths and genres. And tonight I'm going to be talking about a re-release from Ginger Blue Publishing of mine writing as Anita Ensel, A Cup of Joe.
And Melissa?
Hey, I'm Melissa Olthoff. I write sci-fi, I write fantasy, and I always sneak in romance because I write what I love to read. And tonight, I'm talking about my new release from Bane, Rise from Ruin. He's so pretty.
So, and Russ, we'll start with you on this one. Let's talk a little bit about what world are we stepping into. So, kind of give us the big picture.
Sure. So this novella is actually part of a larger universe wherein, so if you think about the British Secret Service, right? MI5 is domestic, MI6 is international, James Bond. Well, what if there was a covert faction, MI7? Classic monsters, Frankenstein down the line, who are spies. So in this case, my lead character is Agatha, who is a descendant of the Jekyll and Hyde line. And when we meet her, she's 15 or so, and she's in training. She's not a full-fledged spy, and she's not really a full-blown monster. She's got it in her genetically, but it has not manifested itself yet. And she has her little crew of folks. She's got Gilbert, who is a descendant of the Invisible Man, and he walks around. He's invisible. He's also naked because he's invisible. And then there's an original character, Lily Goupard, who is a hybrid. She's a human cheetah hybrid, and she's got she can do all sorts of very athletic abilities. And in this setup, Agatha's grandmother, who also has the Hyde power, full Hyde power, has been, and is sort of retired, has been kidnapped. And she's being held ransom. So Agatha and her little crew are pulled into action when they're not even close, remotely close to being ready. And that's kind of the setup for what the rest of the adventure kind of outlays. And they're kind of training. Think of it, they live at this sort of boarding school. Think of it as sort of like a Professor X style, X-Men kind of, big mansion out, but this one is in England, and they kind of live off campus. And they are guided by actually their version of Professor X is actually a Himalayan beast he's very refined, and he wears a monocle and a three-piece suit, and he's kind of in charge, and he's kind of like rallying the troops. And they get this very coded message from the white mask, and demanding that if they want to get the grandmother back, that MI7 has to hand over. There's a vial that has the Hyde formula that allows you to transform into the beast, which of course they clearly don't want to do. And that kind of sets us up for what happens. And it kind of takes place modern day. So that's kind of the world building that we're in.
So it's labeled Jägermeister. Got it. So
I'd say it's a little bit more powerful than Jägermeister, but I wouldn't take a shot of it in either case.
Ariel, how about for you? What's the world we're stepping into?
Frozen.
Yep. I think we're frozen up.
She said she was having connectivity issues.
Yep. All right, we'll come back around to Ariel. So Layla.
So we are stepping into the world of Damaged Saints, which was my 2023 Rocktoberfest book. This book picks up at the end of Rocktoberfest. Both bands had been out there. They got done. Some of the band members had headed to Palm Springs for a little vacation. Some had headed up to Portland for vacation. And that's kind of where the book started, is at the end of Damaged Saints. And so we're back on the road. Draven is managing two bands now. He's managing Damaged Saints, which was the band he used to sing for, and he's managing Blissfully Immune, which is Johnny's band. And Johnny and Jagger, of course, was Damaged Saints' new singer, have been best friends for years. This is the first time they've gotten to be on the road together full time. And we also get to see how the legal issue that Johnny was wrapped up in Damaged Saints gets resolved in Echoes of a Muted Song. So we are right in the desert at the beginning of the book. Rocktoberfest is over. It's in the history books. The band's got some singles that have just released. You'll find out in the story where they chart at. And it's like, okay, we have some downtime for about 10 days. And then the tour starts hard, and that's really where we're going to kick things into overdrive.
So Ariel, welcome back. So what's the world we're stepping into for you?
So the world we're stepping into, this is a little bit different for me. I normally do more monster romance, shifters, that type of thing. I'm doing Omegaverse, so as a co-write with AJ Mulliken. So it is a contemporary Omegaverse. So we have a lot of that, those pack dynamics, the alpha stuff, the omega stuff, the heat stuff, but in a contemporary setting. And so it's a little bit more of the urban fantasy sci-fi variety for me as well, which is not something I normally do, but I had a lot of fun writing. So we have our main character, Aren, who is the Omega in Escape. And we have the pack of mercenaries who are scheduled to, rescue her, bring her in, bring her back. And things are not as they seem with the world she's going back to. And the deeper we delve, the darker it gets. So it's a little different for me, but it was a lot of fun.
Elektra, how about it? What are we bringing in this particular anthology?
Okay. Jack Chalker wrote 10 Well-World books altogether in a couple of different groupings. And these books are set in humanity's future when we've conquered the stars. And the Well-World itself is set off in an unknown part of space. And when you've hit the part of despair and you just want to give up, you might find yourself on a planet gating to the Well-World. Once you are there, the Well-World is covered in hexes, over 1,000 of them, and each one contains a different race in a different biome with different weather patterns, either low, medium, or high tech. Some of them have magic, each of them designed to mimic a world out in the universe where originally when the creators of the universe put things together, if a hex worked out, those people would be sent off to a planet to seed that planet and get things going. And now this world is just sort of sitting here and keeping itself moving. The entire interior of the planet is a computer, which keeps things moving along and makes sure that everything works the way it's supposed to. And in this anthology, people have written stories that take place inside individual hexes as a group of travelers show up on the well world for various reasons. There's a covering story that brings them all together and dumps them on the world because they're in trouble and they have nowhere else to save them.
Well, if nobody was in trouble, we wouldn't have a book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jenny, how about for you? What are we bringing?
Okay. In this world, it appears to be a utopia, set on Earth, and pretty fast you discover it's actually not a utopia. It's very controlled. There's the motherboard, the master computer. The motherboard has become like self-aware, and she arrives and shows up and does things. And we have our hero, who is supposedly, he is going to be the father of the next generation. And, he's big and he's tall and he's handsome. And he's all these things, and he has absolutely no clues about what really is going on. And he meets a lower worker who she just smiles at him. She doesn't, it's like a smile you'd give to anyone, not the father of the next generation. And he's intrigued by this, and he goes after her and discovers pretty much everything he's thought for his whole life is a lie. And they have a race against time to see whether they get to live happily ever after or die. So it's a futuristic utopia that's actually a dystopia.
All right, Melissa, what? Let's find out a little bit about the world you're bringing to us.
So Rise from Ruin is very much Dragon Riders of Pern meets the Griffins of Valdemar in a post-apocalyptic fantasy setting, because I was not just obsessed with Dragon Riders of Pern and Valdemar, I was also obsessed with Sword of Shannara. So I'm like, ooh, post-apocalyptic, I'm in. We have a country, Tennyson, that is at war with their neighboring country who is a little bit greedy and invading. We have Dragon Riders and Griffin Riders and a military academy. And at that academy, the Dragon Riders are the top tier people. Like, everybody wants to be a Dragon Rider. So what happens when your three best friends are morons and prank you at the exact wrong moment? And instead of bonding with your dragon, you end up with an utterly ridiculous griffin instead. Do you give up, or do you embrace a new dream and try and find a way to make a difference in the war, even though you did not get your dragon? It also helps that your adorable, utterly ridiculous griffin is insanely brave.
I think a griffin's a great thing, so that sounds awesome, honestly.
I'm so excited.
So, Ariel, let's talk a little bit about who else we're going to be going on the journey with here in the world.
So, as I mentioned before, Arin is the center of the story. She is the Omega who escapes. And the pack is comprised of Gage, who is the leader. He is more of the stoic kind of, guy in charge. We have Diego, who is kind of the more suave, kinder, gentler guy, but he's still pretty tough. We have Emmett, who is very rough around the edges, has a lot of wounds, and can be extremely protective, but also a little bit of an asshole. And then we have Ollie, who Ollie is our beta, and he is autistic, he is asexual, and he has OCD, and he is just, I love Ollie. He's great. So that is the pack that makes up everybody that is essentially rescuing Arin, but also trying to figure out what exactly is RN, because she, at first glance, she definitely seems like an Omega, but she is a little bit more than that. So there's a lot of mystery there with her. And the bad guys, obviously, because what is a book without a bad guy? And so we have the leader of the pack she escaped from, which is Sneed, and his whole band of bad guys. So those are the characters in our world.
All right, Layla, who are we hanging out with in this one?
Well, for those who didn't read Damaged Saints yet, you won't know about Draven. Draven was the original lead singer for the Damaged Saints, and due to a pyro accident, he was hit in the throat and neck and face, and the shrapnel that hit him in the throat, it damaged his vocal cords. He can still speak. He does have a hard time, like if he's trying to talk for long periods, so he does use a speech-to-text device. But obviously, he's not the singer anymore. He can't fill that role. So in Damaged Saints, they'd kind of gotten a tip from Jagger or from Johnny that, hey, my buddy Jagger, he's usually singing in cover bands. He's not doing anything right now. If you guys are looking for, a serious replacement, maybe have him come up and, try out. And Jagger goes up there, and for those who have read the book, Damaged Saints has two wonderful, adorable St. Bernards, and Jagger is scared of dogs. Like, he is scared as hell. Dude turned around, jumped on his motorcycle, and tore off through town, and was like, yeah, no, I am not going back to the house. Forget it. I am not going anywhere near the furry little death machines. No. Now, mind you, they point out to him, you ride a death machine and you won't go near the dogs. And he's like, yeah, I don't care. Not doing it. And Jagger and Johnny get on the phone, and Johnny sort of baits him into, okay, fine, I drove all the way, from New Bedford, Massachusetts up to Maine. I guess I'll audition. And he gets in there and he auditions, and long story short, he becomes a singer for their band. But what about Draven? So Draven decided that he was going to take over the band's managerial duties, because that was something that he had always been good at organizing. So now we've got two bands on tour, because, of course, Johnny wasn't going to be anywhere too far from Jagger. And once they got out at Rocktoberfest together, they were like, yeah, their band needed a manager. Draven's already got like part of a tour together for Damaged Saints. Let's add Blissfully Immune. Let's get everybody on the road together. Shenanigans ensue. And, Draven and Johnny had always kind of tiptoed a little bit around, will we or won't we? So they get to figure out, will they or won't they, in Echoes of a Muted Song.
So, Elektra, who are we going for a ride on in your story?
Well, the envelope around which all the stories are built brings back two of Jack's favorite characters, Nathan Brazil and Sergio Ortega. But in my story in particular, I introduce a new character named Lita. In the old world of the Commonwealth, she's a girl who's expected to do what she's told, not allowed to develop much of an education, and her mom wants to sell her off to somebody so that mom can get riches and power. And she ends up in a hex called Ulakash, which is deep sea creatures that look somewhat like very large seahorses with extra tentacles. And they can speed around pretty quickly. They live at crushing depths, so they can't communicate all that well with other groups on the well world. They're fairly isolated, and they have water technology that allows them to do amazing things. And once she figures out what's going on, she gets educated. She rises up to being deputy ambassador, which is a cover for the fact that she's something of a spy, since she has an understanding of what's going on. And the entire story is a bit of a spy thriller, written in the shape of an onion, because I couldn't make it just be from beginning to end, because that would be boring.
So, Jenny, let's talk a little bit more about who we're going for a ride with in this one.
Okay, well, David is the father of the next generation. Like I said, he's, tall, dark, and handsome. And he is clueless about how this world is working. He's been raised since he was a little boy, told that he was chosen by the motherboard. So he's, you're going to father the next generation. Delight is supposed to be the mother of the next generation, and she's not quite old enough yet. So when she turns 15, she'll be old enough and they can begin creating the next generation. David thinks this is what he's supposed to be doing. And then Emily just smiles at him like he's just anybody. And it just clicks something in him. He follows her in. He doesn't spend a lot of time in the lower level areas. So what he's gone into is a coffee house. And the scents hit him and everything's great. And he doesn't know what the slang is. So he's ordered a cup of Joe. He doesn't know that it's coffee, et cetera, et cetera. And when he and Emily finally, she's like not interested in talking to him. She's a little older than him. She's not interested. She is allowed to be a writer, the voice of the resistance. And through her, he starts learning that what he thinks isn't right. And, they spend all day together, even though she doesn't really want to, because he's dangerous to her. She can be eradicated because she's spent too much time, in sullying him with her presence. And so David starts learning about things, and he goes back to his, tall ivory tower. And all of a sudden he's looking at Delight like, this is a child. What would Emily think of this? She'd probably be horrified. And Delight, there were younger people working in the coffee shop. Like Starbucks survives, basically, is the coffee house. And, dressed easy. There's still Starbucks in the distant future. It's what keeps the masses from revolting, is there's Starbucks.
That sounds like a dystopia to me to start with.
Well, so anyway, there are younger kids that waited on him, teenagers, and it suddenly dawns on him that that's who Delight should be hanging out with, not sitting in some room, waiting to be making the babies with him. So it's all David's journey, from what he thought he knew to what he realizes to, will he actually have what it takes to save this world or not. And the motherboard is definitely the antagonist. She's been it's the way she's been programmed, which is key to the story, so I'm not going to talk about that. But basically, you're with David and the people he's interacting with, mostly Emily, a little bit Delight, the motherboard, and then the senior programmer.
All right, Melissa, who are we hanging out with?
So Harper Tavros is our main character, and her utterly ridiculous bondmate. She names her griffin Atticus, and he goes, no, my name is Felix. So we have Harper and Felix, and poor Harper, man, she was dang near top of her class. Like, she was high speed, she's a little arrogant, she's a little bit of a show off. And then just like that, she goes from the top ranked Dragon Rider cadet to the worst Griffin Rider cadet, because it's completely different training. She has no idea what she's doing. And to make things even worse, that little prank, well, that Griffin belonged to somebody else. So she accidentally took the place of this team's leader. So now she's in with a completely different group of cadets that hate her because reasons. And her three best friends that pranked her, she is mad. She is big mad at those three. So you have Dimitri, Callum, and Zane that were like her best friends, like for the entire first half of her time at the academy. And all of a sudden she's like, nope, I am not talking to you. And she kind of hits rock bottom there for a while, because Keaton, the team leader, that she slowly manages to work through some issues with. Like he's like, "Oh God, you are a pain in my butt. I am stuck with you." And getting to develop those two, their relationship, like into a true like that. And at the end, that is her brother in every way that matters. It really was a reflection on a lot of the relationships I had with people when I served in the military. So it's an ensemble cast, but really you're in Harper's head, and because you're bonded at a soul deep level, you also get a front row seat to an utterly ridiculous Griffin.
Russ, let's dive a little bit deeper into your cadre.
Okay, so what do you want to know?
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the ride that they're on, right? We got a quick introduction to who's there and their powers, but let's dive a little bit deeper.
So, Agatha and her crew, they're up against it. They want to rescue her grandmother, but they don't want to give up the formula. But Grandma has a secret stash, and they are quested with retrieving it, which takes them. So they're kind of based outside of London, and they wind up kind of going all the way out towards Liverpool, and where Agatha has her Uncle Jack has a pub. And what you can see, if you can see here on the cover, I'll get really close. If you look in the background, well, things aren't really going real well. There's a very intense heist that takes place, and it's very close quarters, and it's a combination of it's very tense and tactical, but there's a lot of humor in there to offset the tension, and within that, they are starting to these teen monsters, these spies in training. This is the first time they're in the field ever, and they're on their own, and the stakes are as high as for them as it can be. And what's happening is, and this is where it was really interesting for me anyway, as a writer, is that yes, there's the plot, and you want all the kind of the spy, all the espionage stuff. You want some gadgets, and you want them plotting, and how do we achieve our goal? But let's not forget, Agatha's a 15-year-old girl. So there's that by itself. And she has the genetic predisposition to potentially become the Jekyll and Hyde beast. She's got a lot of stuff going inside, in here and in here, and there's a lot of internal torment going on, because as that inner monster starts to sort of bubble up inside, both psychologically, emotionally, biochemically. What do you actually do with that? I mean, how would you conduct yourself if we all think we have an inner monster within us, but what if there was an actual inner monster that was kind of deciding it was maybe not ready to come out and play, whether you were ready for it or not, while you have to lead a heist with other teenage spies who are also monsters, but they're teenagers, all trying to rescue her grandmother. That's a lot of pressure to be managing. Forget about as an adult would feel the pressure. What would you do if you were 15? So the combination of the three of them learning how to work together, whether they do or they don't, I'll let you guys read that and find out for yourself. The mistakes that they make and the way that how do they handle mistakes and how do they deal with the stress, and how do they, or do they make the right tactical choices at the right moments? Because this is no joke. This is not training. This is not a simulation. It's not like when you're kids and you're out playing spies. They're actual spies. And there are real world consequences. And oh, by the way, I might become a giant monster. There's kind of a lot going on all at once. And for me, sort of, I tend to write in a three act structure. I just kind of like it. But the way I like it is really the first half of the adventure is really Agatha starting to sort of come alive and wake up a little bit, and really starting to get the beginning of, there's some stuff going on in here. And the second half is really about some stuff is really going on here, and how she deals with it, but also how her team deals with her dealing with it, while there are some very real world consequences. So that balance between that juxtaposition of, we have to be tactically successful, and I have this inner beast fighting for possession of who's going to be in control, was a lot of fun. But I wanted to make sure that I found that right balance between, if it's too much, spy stuff and not enough monster, then the fact that there are monsters doesn't matter that much. If it's too much monster and not enough spy stuff, well, then it's just kind of a bunch of monsters, teenage monsters running around doing monster stuff, which is all fine, but there's got to be more to it. So finding that balance was really, I kind of found myself kind of in this push-pull, you got to push, and the two sides were kind of pushing back and forth, and where are those tension points throughout? And each one of her partners, Gil, who's this invisible kid, he's trying to figure out how to be him, and Lily, who's this cheetah hybrid, she's super athletic and she could do her thing. And meanwhile, there's also the relationship with their grandmother who's missing, and how all those pieces kind of come together. And that's kind of a hallmark of the way I write, is I like to pull together multiple disparate elements, and have that tension build where you're kind of twisting, and it's getting tighter and tenser and more and more and more and more, until that pressure is going to just burst. And then you sort of have to let it out in a very satisfying way. And that's kind of where they're at. So there's a lot. These kids are really handling quite a lot.
So now we know what happens when you turn on teenage monsters in the bar. So Layla, I'm going to go to you on this. One of the things, and I think with this, it's always that question of, what do you learn in the process of working on a book, right? There's the research rabbit holes you trip over. There's the things you just figure out about yourself sometimes when you're working on a book. Sometimes it's just the surprises that come along the way. So what'd you learn in this one?
Well, the fun part was that I set it in my hometown of New Bedford, but in current time. Half the old factories have burned down. Trying to find stuff on a map with, Google Maps and I got to be really close friends, because I was like, wait a minute, if you walk to the corner of Coggeshall Street and turn left, isn't there supposed to be you go down a block and up one more block and there's a diner there? The diner there had the best pan-fried potatoes. The building's gone. There's no diner there. Where is he now? Now I don't know where to send him to walk for his linguiça and his, pan-fried potatoes and his eggs, because that diner was midway between my mom's house and my dad's house. I loved that diner. I could find that diner in the dark, and the whole building on the corner is gone. It's like, eh. So then I'm in a chat going, all right, because I haven't lived home in years. Who can tell me the best place to get, I don't want shredded potatoes. I want the big pan-fried chunky potatoes cooked with the pieces of linguiça, and I want that thing to taste like the paper would have grease stains dripping through it from the butter and everything. I want that kind of breakfast. And a few people chimed in, and then I had to send my brother-in-law over with one of my nephews, because I'm if it's not good, if it's not up to what Dad's standards would have been, it's not going in the book. It's got to be good enough that that's where we would go for Sunday breakfast. So they checked it out and they were like, oh, he'd have loved this place. Awesome. But, that was fun. Just trying to navigate a city that I used to know in the dark and haven't lived in for years. But the other part that ended up being unexpected, but I suppose I should expect this from myself. I started writing the notes for the book when I was at my friend's place in October, and I was there for the whole month. And I would spend at least an hour, sometimes 2, 3, almost 4, in the pool every day. And this one book that was just supposed to be Johnny's follow-up book, has now become an actual series. So Rebel's book will be the next book. I'm flipping a coin because I don't know if we're going to have Mickey's book as the book that comes after Rebels, or if Ozzy's book's going to come after Rebels. All I can tell you is that at last count, we were at 7 books that were following Echoes. And so we were going to end up with a 3rd band on tour with them. They've brought in some more bodyguards. 2 of the bodyguards are actually ex-rodeo bull riders. And so that there's going to be some fun play there. It bloomed into a series. And as I always do, I grabbed a legal pad. And in my final week at my friend's house, I filled 3/4 of the legal pad with notes for their whole world, their world. There's 3 or 4 tours organized. They're even getting to go overseas to the UK. They're going to do an Australia show. Like, I've got all these scenes and tour pieces and everything kind of figured out already for all the different books. Who's going to move in and out of each band, who the bodyguards are going to be. And one of the best parts of it all about just organizing the rocker book, which is contemporary, was telling somebody about it at a table where we had also been talking about goat shifters and everything else, which is why I also have the Rhino shifter rock stars that are a paranormal spinoff of this series. So there will be 2 rocker romance series, 1 paranormal and 1 contemporary, all from the same little Rocktoberfest story.
I'm curious to see how the rodeo riders cross over between the 2, but we'll wait and see see what happens.
We'll get to that next year when I start writing it.
So, Elektra, what'd you learn in the process of this one?
I mentioned that the story was in the shape of an onion. I knew that we were given the idea that their character was going to arrive on the well world, and then they wanted us to tell the story of what happened when they got there. And I didn't want my story to read the same as everybody else's, and that was why I wanted it to not be from A to B. And I took a class on nonlinear storytelling and jumped off from that point. And boy, did I learn a lot about trying to make that work. I learned a lot from Henry Lien, who taught a fantastic class using examples like the Arabian Nights, which has a lot of nesting stories. And it taught me that I could do a lot of things I never thought I could pull off. And it's a great experience putting something like this together. It was a lot of work, and I really enjoyed working with all the people I got to work with on this, including the widow of the guy who put it all together, Jack Chalker.
Jenny?
Okay, well, like I said, this is a re-release. It's a re-release of a story that I did a long time ago. And one of the best things about this is before it was published. I took this story to a writer's conference. I had an appointment with an editor, and he wasn't an editor for a house. He was a freelance editor. And he starts reading with it, and he says, "Do you mind? I don't have anyone after you. Do you mind if I finish the story? I want to know how it ends." I was like, "No, go ahead." And he had some really great suggestions that I incorporated. But one of the things he says is, we need to hurry up and get this published because it's not going to stay relevant. And when I did the edits with, Ginger Blue's editor going, there's this and there's that. I'm like, well, I didn't see that many years ago, right? One of the things, though, that struck was that it isn't out of date at all. What he was concerned about, as you could tell from me talking about the motherboard and the head programmer, it's very computer focused. There's a lot of computer inner workings and such going on, which is very, very relevant to the plot. And he was concerned that we would find, that by the time, if I took too long, all our storage problems would be solved, all our energy problems would be solved. Whereas, now we know ChatGPT is going to eat up the environment faster than anything else, right? So it's actually still incredibly relevant. And it's one of those things that I'm so glad he was wrong about that. And that it's gotten a new life in coming out again. But that's really what I learned, is that just because someone thinks you're going to be out of date doesn't mean you will be. And a good story, even if we've solved it, like the movie Alien, it's still a good movie, even though computers don't look like that, right? We shrunk as opposed to grew. And James Cameron had to come in and try to make Aliens look more like we could accept, sort of make it smaller, but make it work. But it doesn't negate that, okay, you guessed wrong. Okay, that's all it says. You guessed incorrectly. We went a different direction. But it doesn't negate that the value of the story. So it was nice to have that reproven, that this is still a good story and it's still relevant today. And I still, I was the editor who first looked at it has since passed away, which was, I really wanted to tell him, and I resold it. Again, it's still relevant, but he has passed, so I assume he knows. But yeah, so never give up on anything is really what I learned from that. Listen to somebody who is eager to help and knows what he's talking about, but don't give up even if it's like, oh, I think its day has passed, because it probably hasn't.
Melissa, what'd you trip over in working on this book?
I learned how to make napalm. So I had so much fun with my dragons because I gave them different specializations. Mostly by leaning on my Air Force experience, because I'm like, well, if I have dragons, I'm going to specialize them with different missions and different airframes. So I had green dragons that are very much helicopter analogs that do search and rescue, and they're very strong and they can camouflage their... Harper wanted a green dragon so bad, just like I did, which is pretty much why I joined the Air Force, because I was so bad that I couldn't actually be a green dragon rider on those hatching stands of Pern. And then I have my gray dragons, and I'm like, oh, these are happy little bombers. And napalm is not that hard to make in a post-apocalyptic society that has mostly recovered to some degree. So yeah, I learned how to make napalm, and I assured Agents Johnson, who 100% listen to everything that we do, that it's for a book. It's fine. It's totally fine. As one does.
I'm a writer and I'm working on a book is going to get us all in trouble one of these days.
We're all on watch lists.
100%.
I was drilled down on Guantanamo Bay for 6 months, like I can see what the buildings look like level, while researching poisons and explosives. So yeah.
Like, and don't check our search history, guys. It's fine. We're right.
Yeah, we're on the same list. We're all together.
Right. It's gonna be great.
It's not even gonna be me in my house that does it. It's gonna be my roommate, because she is a horror fan and she likes to research stuff like why pestis and like pestilence and all these little like things that can kill you and how the strains go together and all these different things. It's going to be her. I tell you, I swear it's going to be her. It's not even going to be me.
All right, Russ, what research rabbit hole did you trip over?
Well, it's interesting. I was commissioned, so this is through Padwolf Publishing, Patrick Thomas. We go back a long way. We work together a lot. This book, this novella, was supposed to come out 2019. And then it got pushed to 2020. And then the pandemic came and it just screwed up the publishing situation through Pad Wolf, because I had a bunch of things going on and usual disruptions. And what happened is it just sat there for years just because of life. And then I came back to it about a year ago. He said, all right, we're finally ready to kind of get back to it. I apologize, life, whatnot. And it was really interesting to, usually when I write something, you write, maybe you take a little break and you come back to it. But what's a break? A day, a week, a couple of weeks, a month, whatever it is. But 4 years is a long time to sort of go back. And I forgot a lot of what I had written. And you go, I don't know. Did I do a good job? Was it terrible? I don't know. And I looked at it and I went, you're kind of not that bad. But I did kind of, and I went back through it and I definitely cleaned it up. And it was a reminder to me, actually, a little bit less than the research, is that, whenever we're writing, whatever we're doing, it's funny, I talk about this a lot. Some will say, well, I did the best that I could. Well, I never know if that's actually true. I mean, how do you define best? I don't even really know what that means. But ultimately, I figure I do the best job that I can based on what I know at the time and real world conditions that I'm writing it. Because we got a lot going on in life. I mean, the world right now is just completely insane, and we still have to do life. And I have to go be creative, and which is one thing, but then you want to be technically strong as well. So the ability to kind of go back with some distance on it and be fairly ruthless with my manuscript. I mean, it's just my process. I do many, many, many rounds of edits, many. More than I've talked to, tons of writers, and I think I probably do more rounds of edits maybe than average. And in doing so, I've discovered that, however good that I was in 2019, I'm stronger now. And a part of that was, you look at it and you go, it's one of those, like you're like, oh God, I can't look. Oh God, I can't believe I did this, or whatever it is. And you look at it, and I think it's important, at least for me, to say, listen, if I were to look at anything I've written, I probably would go back and I would change any number of things. It's to be sort of forgiving with yourself. We're as good as we are, as good as we think we are, and it's really up to other people to judge what they think about it. It's being able to sort of make your peace with what you put out into the world. And my attitude is, if I'm not proud of it, I'm not putting my name on it. That's just the way I go about it. And then other people will think whatever they do. And having the chance to look at it again after that much time was a bit of an eye-opener, both in the sense that I felt very confident. I was very happy with the underlying narrative. I felt it was very strong. But I was also frustrated with myself because I saw things that were, in retrospect, pretty simple to fix. Like, it was just staring me at the face. But you know what happens? You look at words 84,000 times, you're not even looking at words anymore. It's like, when you say a word enough times and you're like, is that a word anymore? Does that have a meaning? So it was really kind of interesting for me. And it reminded me that perspective is critical, and that I have to make if I want to be successful as an author, however I define success, it's making my peace with, and I tell my kids this all the time, there's no such thing as perfect. That doesn't exist. And I never think it's going to be perfect. It's, am I happy with it? Am I proud of it? And am I confident that, assuming I can find an audience, that readers will will enjoy what I've done? And if I can say yes, I make my peace with it. But if I can't, and you have that, like, that little, you got to trust that gut inside. If it's nagging at you, because there's the balance between, yes, it's great, and there's I'm so sick of this fucking story, and if I look at it one more time, someone will die. I'm going to kill somebody. and not fictionally. I'm going to murder someone if I do this one more minute. And what's that balance? And the answer is, I don't really know. You sort of have to figure it out in real time. So it was really kind of an eye-opener to go back and find that balance between the underlying narrative I felt very happy about, but technically it wasn't as tight as it could have been, but I got it there, I think. And who knows, if I look at this in 5 years, I might go, oh my God, I'm such a putz. How did I let this into the world? But as far as it goes, I'm very happy. I'm really glad that I had that time and distance really worked for me, because in the years in between, I wrote 5 private eye novels, were more spies. So I've been writing basically nothing but spy thrillers for the last 6 or 7 years. So this is kind of what my world has become, and to do it in YA, which was sort of a little bit new for me, was really fun. And I learned that, you know, I can do it without it being, I could be hardcore, but in a YA, you know, way. And it was a lot of fun for me. So at the end, I was really satisfied with the way it came out. And I think if folks give it a read, I think they'll like it as well.
All right, Ariel, what'd you trip over and learn in this one? Ariel.
Hello, can you hear me? You good?
Now we can.
So what I tripped over in this one, usually a process for me as I write, I get really kind of like sucked into research. It's just like one of my favorite things is like, you know, falling into a rabbit hole and researching like exactly what, you know, cocktail was served at this particular restaurant and this particular, like, I love that sort of thing. But with Captured Omega, I didn't actually do as much research in setting or plot as I normally do. Instead it came this time in representation. I've been writing a lot of queer romance this year. I've been writing a lot of male romance, a lot of poly romance, and so Ollie being my first asexual character, I did a lot more research on that, and as well as I have many friends who are on the spectrum. So I really kind of was doing a lot more research for Ollie's personality, and to make sure I got the nuances right, to make sure I got the representation right, to make sure that, you know, that when people read Ollie, that they connect to him. So I think I fell more in love with Ollie writing him as I was researching him, and kind of taking on that persona and some of those mindsets and things, and not just in him, but in how he connects to other people too, as well. So I think that was kind of what I got tripped up on with writing Captured Omega with AJ, was kind of just falling in love with Ollie as I was writing him.
Well, we've got a lot to stack up on that to be read pile, but before we do that, let's make sure everybody knows where to find you guys. You know, website, social media, and of course, remind everybody the title of the book. So, Russ, you're up first.
So again, I'm Russ Colchamiro. The title of the novella, and it's a novella, which is Hide and Seek, Hide with the Hyde, Fury of the White Mask. It's put out by Padwolf Publishing. You can find them at padwolf.com. You can find it on Amazon. And for me, I'm on Facebook. I am on Instagram. I'm Author Dude Russ. I'm on Blue Sky. And for those of you who don't know, I know some of you have been on my show. I host my own podcast, Russ's Rock and Roller Coaster. I just wrapped up the final season. I just did a great hour on Andor and Rogue One, if you want to check it out. All the episodes are free on YouTube. A lot of great authors on there, so you can come check me out. And I will be at StokerCon in Stamford, Connecticut, next week. And I will be at Shore Leave in Lancaster, Pennsylvania in July, and I'll be in Monster Mania in Oaks, Pennsylvania in November, and maybe 1 or 2 cons in New Jersey between then. And so Hide and Seek is part of an ongoing universe from Padwolf, but this is a standalone adventure that you can read completely by itself. You don't have to know anything else that exists within that world. This is everything you need to know is right in here. And if you like spies, it's got spies, it's got monsters, it is a heist, there's a rescue, and there's a lot of body horror and a lot of tension. So if you like a mixture of some dark and cool and weird and fun and exciting and things that blow up real good, check this one out.
Ariel?
So I am, once again, Ariel Dawn. You can find me pretty much everywhere, on all the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Insta, all that jazz. You can also find me at ariel-dawn.com. The book I was talking about this evening was Captured Omega. It is a dark Omega-verse reverse harem that I co-wrote with AJ Mulliken, and you can find it on Amazon and in Kindle Unlimited.
Layla?
Hi, I'm Layla Dorine. This is Pride Month, and all of my books are LGBTQ romance. You will find poly representatives. You will find Pan. You will find Demi. I have my bestie and I are writing our first sapphic story that will be out this year as well. So, check us out. I write with TL Travis. I also write with JP Sale. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky. I don't think any of us are on Twitter anymore. Echoes of a Muted Song is available on Kindle Unlimited. It is on Amazon. It is currently being made into an audio. Damaged Saints is an audio, so if you want to catch up on Jagger and Johnny, it is available in paperback, ebook, and audio now for Damaged Saints. And Rebels book will be out around May of next year.
Elektra?
I'm Elektra Hammond. You can find me at untilmidnight.com, which has links to all my socials. I do most of my socials on Mastodon, where you can find me Monday nights between 7 and 8, talking about a random topic where everybody is welcome to comment under the hashtag WriteFant. Tonight we've been talking about permutations, news stories from Jack Chalker's Well World. It is available any place where you can buy fine books.
Jenny?
GiniKoch.com. If you want to join my free newsletter, hook me up. You can do so from the bottom of most of the pages on my website. I'm all over Facebook. I'm still on X Twitter. I'm on Blue Sky and Pinterest. A Cup of Joe released from Ginger Blue Publishing last week. And you can find it in ebook and physical format from, the usual suspects. And I will be at LibertyCon later this month. And then San Diego Comic Con, Gen Con, Dragon Con, and Voucher Con, because I apparently just don't like to be at home.
Melissa?
You can find me at melissaolthoff.com or .net. I am on all the socials, including TikTok now, and I spend way too much time on Facebook. Rise from Ruin is out as of today, June 3rd, from Bain Books, everywhere books are sold. Whew. And the audio will be out September 30th. As for real life me, you can find me at LibertyCon as well. That's in, dear Lord, 3 weeks. It's only 3 weeks away in Chattanooga.
No, it's less than
2.5.
2 weeks. Oh, don't make me do
2.5.
math. Ugh, no time math. So yeah, I will be at LibertyCon, and then I will be at DragonCon. It is my first year as an attending pro, and I am super excited. So that's where I'll be.
And you can find me at jamespnettles.com, authoressentialsworkshops.com, creatingpros.com, and of course here at ConTinual. And I'll be at Liberty, and I'll be at Dragon, and there's probably a few other things coming as well. And until then, go stack up that to-be-read pile. We'll see you again soon.
See you guys.